Hey, welcome to Project 11, and this is what we're going to be painting today. So look at that cloud, look at the depth, and then look at the depth in the fields. This is my favorite part in this painting. So let us have a look at the colors that we need for this one. So we start with transparent orange, cobalt blue, paint gray, violet, olive green, sap green, dark green, and then cadmium red and cadmium yellow. So if you're ready, let's get started with this one. All right, let us start. So today the horizon line is going to be around 1/3 at the top region. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in that horizon line. That is around 1/3 on the paper. And now we will start. So we'll start with the sky first and then head downwards. Okay, so here I'm applying water to the sky region. So we're again going to split this up. Do not need to continue on both areas. So just apply water to the sky region, and then we can start painting the sky. So I'm grabbing my size 6 brush, and now we're going to paint the sky. So starting with a nice gorgeous transparent orange color, and this is what we will put right above the horizon line all the way over to that right side. Okay, so there you go. Like, take it and let it go all the way over to that right side, and that's it. Okay, then let's also add in some nice cloud shapes. Okay, so I'm trying to create like some cloudy shapes like that, which we will fill up later on with some paint gray. I mean, you've seen the final image, so you clearly know how this is going to turn out. All right, so at the base region here is where we want it to be nice and orange. Then before this entire thing dries up, a little bit of cobalt blue, and that's what's going to go over there, but do not touch the orange. Okay, very, very important. And then here again over to this side as well, nice cobalt blue, but make it in directional like that. The strokes needs to be directional, okay, so that it's clearly visible, these strokes. That's what we want. So as if it's coming over to that cloud over there. That's how we want it. Okay, now next going and grabbing my paint gray right now. Okay, we're gonna add in the clouds as we discussed. Okay, but we need to make sure that my brush is not too much watery. And there, I'm gonna add in the paint gray clouds now. So some amount of lighter colors are okay, and here as in white areas are okay. So here I'm just grabbing my paint gray and I'm putting it over on top of the orange strokes that we did. It's somewhat going to turn into like a slight brownish stroke, perhaps. That's fine. And then some of the clouds over on that side, and then let's come over to this side and start again, and we're gonna create like layer of paint gray clouds over to this side. Okay, so here this would go on top of the orange areas. Okay, so always observe closely as well how I'm holding my brush. That is absolutely important if you want to get like some nice strokes, obviously. Okay, so now we've added those cloudy shapes there. I'm grabbing a little bit more of my orange, and now I'm going to go over the paint gray. So that would then make it turn into a slightly brownish color at that region. So only over the areas where you're actually pushing in the paint gray would be turning into brown. Then I've washed my brush, and then now I'm going to go with my orange again. Okay, and only touch to the orange areas and not onto the gray area that I just painted. So I'm just trying to like unify that whole thing so that it feels like a continuous cloudy shape. So see what I've done there? So it feels natural, feels like a slight continuous phase for that amount of cloud there, isn't it? So that's what we want to try and do. If you want, you can also do some nice lifting inside and create some lighter strokes. See, I've just created I lifted my paint here. Lifting basically is you're lifting using the brush like that. Now you've got the paint in your brush and you want to wipe off, you want to wash your brush, and then you want to wipe it off again, okay, so that you're not putting that paint back on to your paper, okay. And see, that lifting process has revealed as though this looks like is given volume to that cloud. That's how we describe it, okay. Now once that is done, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of violet and we're gonna put in background there, okay. So just over some mountain shapes or anything. It can be wet on dry, it can be wet on wet. If your paper is still wet, don't bother. If your paper is dried, that's also fine. So do not be panicking at this point if it's like spreading too much or your strokes are dried out. So towards this left side it was slightly wet, but now over to this right side I can see that it's completely dry and I'm getting a wet on dry stroke and I'm not bothered. It's okay, okay. Some nice background strokes added, and that is it for our ultimate sky there, okay. Now the next thing, we're going to paint the bottom part. So here again I'm going to apply water to my bottom part. I'm not going to touch anywhere at the top, so I'm just going to give a slight angle so that my water would flow down instead of going over to the top side. And now that looks amazing, isn't it? So then let me go ahead and grab the excess water from along the edges. All right, there you go. Just a little bit more. I saw some excess water there and I wanted to take that off. That's why I've done that again. Now I'll grab my size 8 brush because we've got a lot of ground to cover. That's the reason why I'm grabbing that size 8 brush, okay? And then here I start with my olive green color. The reason being the sky there is very warm with the orange hues. So at the back side there, like over to the horizon, it needs to have those colors, okay. So here I'm just grabbing my olive green and I'm gonna go apply that right below the horizon, okay. So if your horizon is still wet, it might have some paint flow down to the bottom. I would say that's absolutely fine, okay. It just I love watercolor techniques that way, okay. So it's absolutely fine if it actually flows down, let it do so. All right, so now we've done that much. Now I'm just gonna grab a little bit of a green color, okay, my dark green, and then I'm gonna mix it up with my brown because I want to create an olive green shade that's like almost darker, but I want it to be warmer and brownish, and that's the reason why I'm mixing it with brown, okay. And then using that, we're gonna create like some bushiness to that back area, okay. So it's maybe some dense forest or some kind of bushiness exists, okay. Okay, that's done. Now I'm gonna go back with my olive green, okay. We'll add more, don't worry. So now when you're grabbing paint, make sure it's nice and watery. See the amount of watery paint that I put in, okay, because we want our paper to stay wet. And also observe the angle that I have. I'm holding my paper literally at an angle so that it would flow down, okay. There you go. Grabbing that, and then I'm just going ahead and applying. So we'll apply the olive green all the way to the bottom, okay. First all the way to the bottom, and then we'll try and add in other colors over the top. So there, applying really wet paint. We want to make sure that our paper stays wet at this point. You can also go ahead and wet your paper multiple times if your paper is like really prone to drying. Now I'm going to go back with that mixture that we did, okay, and try and create that foliage region once more, okay. I want the color to be more dense, so I'm picking it up in a denser manner. Also remember wet on wet rule, where we're trying to do wet on wet, but our paper might start to dry. So you need to pick up dry paint. So look at the consistency of the paint there. Okay. And then go ahead and add. So here I'm just adding. And I'm trying to create, like, mimic the shape of some bushy hedges and as such. Okay, so maybe this is like a bushy hedge area there. Now we want to bring in some nice gorgeous color. Okay, so I'm just grabbing my sap green and I'm applying that over my olive green. Okay, again, you can apply nice wet paint at this point. Okay, and then using my sap green, I'm just going to create these upward strokes, which would then mimic like the grassy structure. Okay, look at my brush, how it's going upward. Okay, so there you go. Then grabbing darker green now. I'm going to do the same with my darker green, but again, upward strokes. So we want to try and mimic the shape of a grassy texture at that bottom region. Okay, there you go. Okay, so decrease as I come towards this bottom. You want it to be at probably like an angle or something. Okay. Okay, then the next thing that I want to do is, because we applied the olive green in flat stroke, that's going to look flat, but here I am just going to grab my olive green and then I'm going to create like vertical strokes down there as well, so that that olive green would look and feel like a grass itself. See? Okay, now I've laid my paper down flat. Okay, I want my sap green and then going with darker green. We're trying to create a dense field here, and those are the regions like further away. Okay, so next thing we'll grab is probably a little bit of paint gray as well. Okay, in order to create depth, and the depth areas go over to here. Okay, so the more can you see how dense and depth that area has now? Okay, and that's the reason, because we are adding a lot of light to dark contrast here, and that's exactly what we want to bring over here. Okay, light to dark contrast, literally some nice contrast. Okay, so here just grabbing my sap green. Okay, so as I go towards the top, also observe that I'm decreasing the height. Okay, like I'm not drawing a larger one. As I go towards the very top, I'm creating smaller, literally smaller ones. Okay, that's exactly how you want to do it. Perspective, bring it smaller towards that top region. Okay, so that part is now done. We've got some nice coverage in the front. Okay, and then let's add in some nice flowers now. Okay, so the easiest way to add those flowers is, first of all, using the wet on wet splatters. So here, just gonna grab in a nice amount of my cadmium red, but I only want the flowers to the front. So here I'm just gonna grab and, you know, mask out that region, and here. Okay, some nice flowers added. You can also go ahead and make some larger drops if that helps. There you go, see that? We'll also add some with yellow. So here I'm gonna grab my cadmium yellow. Okay, for that will also to give us, make sure your paint is denser when you're doing this process. Okay, there you go. Really want some nice dense flowers. Ah, look at that. Okay, got some nice dense flowers in that region. Now I'm just gonna grab my olive green and mask out any areas where it's got flowers where it's not meant to be. Okay, only in these areas is where we want the flowers. All right. So I honestly and personally like to keep the background and everything lighter this way. I mean, the splatters this way, and not actually paint a foreground flower. But if you prefer, you can go with that method as well. But for me, this painting is almost done. Let me completely dry this up, and we'll see if we need any foreground strokes. Okay. That decision is actually going to come after I've finished with this, drying this up. There you go. It's dried up now. Okay, so I am really cool with it. Although if you want, you can go ahead and make the centers of some of those red splatters more evident by just putting teeny tiny dots there if it's kind of, pierced into your paper. Otherwise, leave it as it is, because I honestly love the way it's turned out. And just these yellow flowers, though, they've become very lighter, and the reason why that's become lighter is our underlying color. The color there is olive green, so then that green mixes with the yellow, there's a possibility of that yellow getting lighter because of the color. See, like, the yellow is there, but it's not seen because there's no contrast. Okay, contrast, that's the word that I was meaning to tell you about. Okay, so because there's no contrast between the yellow and the underlying color, you can go ahead and put in some nice yellow flowers. That would be absolutely okay. There you go, and we're totally done. I absolutely love how this one has turned out. Okay, so since the edges are dry, let's go ahead and remove the tape. I think the sky here is my favorite part, and also these splatters and the flowers. Alright, so here you go. Here's the final painting. This one was really quick, right? So I hope you enjoyed painting this with me, and thank you so much for joining me today.